Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. Welcome to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. And today I have Nora Aguirre, the present president of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. In just 48 hours, she will be giving La Corona to Oralia Herrera. She is also the CEO of the Nora Aguirre team with Century 21 Americana out of Las Vegas.
Exactly.
She is an entrepreneur. She is inspirational. She is another one of our examples that I love to bring on the podcast to talk about the story of Si Se Puede y cómo lo has hecho. So Nora, tell us about how you grew up, where you come from. Tell us more about Nora.
I was born in Mexico, Durango, and we migrated when I was just 6 years old to Las Vegas. And during that time, it was the normal immigrant story. Parents are working for bare minimum. My dad got to Vegas, started working as a maintenance landscaper for the golf courses. There's a lot of golf courses in Mexico, in Vegas. And so he did that. My mom, lavanderia, and working, all the time. And so we obviously got to Vegas, did not grow up in the best areas in Vegas. And so sure enough, quickly learned, the culture of, las gangas y estas otras cosas with what we grew up around, no? The thing for me that I think was just so important to really connect me to con mi cultura, con mi familia, was that I got around 10 years old, I got the opportunity to go back to Mexico and spend some months out of the summer with my grandma. And my grandma in Mexico, y el abuelo, campesinos, en rancho. And so I got to go back and spend just what I feel was life-changing for me. Just months of having carefree moments, not thinking about what I was wearing, what I wasn't wearing, if I was wearing the right brands or not the right brands,
bonito.
or if somebody was going to come up to me and try to, pick on me for whatever reason, right? You didn't speak English properly, you didn't dress up right, but it was just for me freedom to be really myself, feel the love de los abuelos, which I think is a huge asset in our culture. And so I got those months, and I got to spend that all the way until I was like 15, 16. I started working young as well, like around the age of 13, 14. So every year I would go less. So it turned out to be that, I would go a couple of weeks right when I was 15, 16 years old, because I had a full-time, part-time job in the summer while I was going to school. And so, but that was huge. And, from that, I can tell you that I learned so much about my culture, about my grandma's beliefs de la religión, my family's beliefs around money. Y todo eso obviamente tuvo una tremenda influencia en mi vida. So I'm the oldest granddaughter. I'm the oldest daughter. So in our, I don't know, we probably all know this, pero en una familia latina, eso significa mucho, ¿no? Tú tienes que ser el ejemplo.
A responsibility.
Sí, tú tienes que cuidar a los demás,
Yes.
tienes que caminar derechito porque todos están mirándote, y tú tienes que ayudar a cuidar a los demás.
Económicamente después también.
Sí, todo. Entonces, para mí era como que era una responsabilidad, pero te voy a decir que en ese momento yo no la veía así, Peggy. I saw it as like I really enjoyed it. I loved, being able to be a helper in my family. Being able to. My grandma really saw me as that, young, energetic.
Did you know that you were a leader? That's what it was. You were becoming a leader.
I don't know if I was becoming, or la abuelita made sure that I, she put me on that path. Pero yeah, today I even said it last year when I was installed. I said, I wish my grandma's no longer with us, but she would have loved to see kind of where I am today, because she really wanted nothing more than like for me to be empowered, for me to have freedom, and so lots happened during my childhood that actually really helped me like want to be better and want to do great things and want to push harder and not fail, right? Not fall into the, getting pregnant young or get into drugs, because those to me were things that I just couldn't afford to do because I had all of these, people that poured into me. La abuela, que siempre era como, her joy and her passion about life was kind of like she was going to live that through me. And kind of similar with my mom. And so I just couldn't afford to. So I was, pushing forward all the time. And of course,
Was it a lot of pressure?
of course, later on I realized, right, that with that, when I was little, I didn't realize it, but later on it comes with a lot of pressure, because then when you fail, which in life you're bound to fail,
Of course.
because it's natural, because it's part of the process, it hits you very hard, right? Because you're, I was used to go, 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 and always be.
And you still are go, go, go.
Always, yeah, still go, go, go.
And the money mindset. We were
Yeah.
talking about the money mindset as well. So, in our cultures, we find that, there are negative words, right?
Yeah.
When una persona que tiene dinero, or that rich uncle, nobody talks to him because he has too much money and y ya cambió, or que esa persona es ambiciosa, which means ambitious, which in English is a great word, but in Spanish it's such a bad negative word that un ambicioso, it's like they're greedy, How did you, transform that, or how did you have that mindset of, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to make money, and money is a good thing because money helps others?
Let me tell you that I went through a lot to get through that personally, because if I tell you about my story a little bit more, I grew up around like family members were into drug dealing, and those were the people that had money, and so it was dinero no bien dado, no, and then we had some family, that we would get on, that they did get to go to school in Mexico, for example, but then they belittled the rest of the family that wasn't, and so I grew up around all of that. Like, it's like, lo importante, my parents would always think, lo importante es trabaja duro, sé honesto, and never, no le hagas mal a nadie. Con eso es más que suficiente. Like, that's what my dad and my mom would always think. Like, that'll make us proud, right? Never like go, to these, these other lengths to become, wealthy, or
We talked
like,
about
yeah.
that.
And that was huge.
Nora, ¿hasta cuándo? ¿Cuánto más? Te
Correcto.
decían.
Correcto, por supuesto. So for them, it would have been enough like 10 years ago that I would have stopped growing financially and in my career, because for them, that's the mentality that they grew up with, right? And why? Because we had, in Mexico tuvimos pues I haven't talked about this often, but we had a big, a breakup between like my grandfather and his two brothers owned this rancho, finca, como dicen allá en Colombia,
sí.
¿no? Un rancho. And I actually got to grow up in that rancho when I was little. And it is something very nostalgic for me, very, very huge. And that's what I would go to every year when I went back. And at the age, when I was 13, I actually had a terrible fight. It was like, terrible, like physical, the whole 9 yards in the rancho. And at that moment, we ended up like splitting ways. We ended up leaving and living, ya no en el rancho, pero ya en el pueblito. And so I remember that situation for me, and it was very traumatic. I felt like I had, like, nos despojaron.
Sí.
Y familia.
Sí.
Y era por dinero.
Claro.
Era porque quería quedarse con ese rancho porque, la familia ya estaba creciendo, and it was,
And we see that all the time.
Yeah, it is like a very common thing. Yes. I, at that age, didn't think it was very common.
But it was traumatizing.
Yeah,
it impacted you.
Absolutely. And so at that moment, it was just like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to fight over money. I'm never going to, like, money's never going to have that type of control in my life. And it was just like something super big. So push forward, I get into real estate, you start coming around money, you start coming around wealthy people, and you're like, like, I'm okay with making a living. Like, I'm not, like, that's not what I'm looking for, right? Sweetie, until I started kind of starting to connect que había mucha gente en esta industria que era súper linda y que tenían mucho dinero. And I'm like, why? And I started noticing my reaction to that. I started kind of detecting that in my emotions in the way. And I was like, there's something wrong here. So, of course, I've always believed in self-development. I wanted to be a social worker before being a real estate agent, right? Because again, I was the oldest. Grandma always thought that I could help solve the family's problems and traumas. So I wanted to go that route.
But we are social workers too
We
in real
are.
estate.
He cumplido mi sueño, no? I realized that a long time ago.
Terapista, peluquera, fashion designer, consultant, interior design.
Yeah. So,
Contadora.
no, de todo, no. Y esa era como que, bueno, en ese momento que yo veía todo, o sea, para mí, mis papás diciéndome, not too much, a little is good, just work hard. Y por otro lado, viendo esa escena terrible de cómo nos despojaron. So, para mí fue bastante trauma, Peggy.
Because money seemed evil at that point.
It was.
Because it was the cause of...
and politics in our countries, the way that, it's moved, how people can manipulate so much because of
corruption.
With money. Mm-hmm. I mean, money was just a constant, a constant denominator in all these terrible situations, right?
Makes sense.
So, ¿qué te puedo decir? Lo detecté y qué bueno, porque I was getting stuck. I was making like $80,000 a year.
You were stuck in that same
I was
number.
stuck in 80, 90, and I was like, why I can't get over 100? And then I remember even having here, I was already an agent, somebody telling me like, well, if you're Latina and you're making almost 100,000, you should be proud. And when you should be proud. Most Latinas don't make that type of money. And I remember back then, again, your body, now I'm so aware of it, but I didn't even realize at that moment. But my body at the moment told me there's something wrong with that statement. And so I kept on kind of asking myself that question, why do I have this feeling, right? Every time that the money. And so, of course, I went to self-development, started digging deeper, and I uncovered a lot of wrong misconceptions about money, how I paired up money with evil. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, I had to break through that. Very expensive process, of course, but it's worth it 1,000 times. And going very deep into it, even to the point, even a relationship with my husband. I mean, that's another level, right?
That's because sometimes we make more money than them.
No, and as a mother, you're supposed to be able to stay home, and this is enough. Like, your children need you. They need you as the
guilt.
Oh,
the
obviamente.
Guilt. That's another whole podcast.
So olvídate, mucho trabajo, and deep in that process of doing the work, it was freeing, and it was wonderful to find myself like really kind of letting go of those layers of all of the things that money was like, what I associated money to. And then from there, really establishing kind of a new idea, like declaring what I really wanted, and knowing that, my goal has always been to be alguien que sirve, que ayuda, like en su familia,
claro.
A su prójimo, quien sea. Like, I want you to come across, and cuando digas, you know what, she's like, she made my day better.
Yes.
Or she's like somebody positive. And that was it. And I'm like, money does help you do that much easier. And so I started making those new connections
Correct.
To money, and how money can absolutely be a tool. And the important part of, the reason why I love my NAHREP familia is because being around NAHREP for now more than 10 plus years, I was able, again, to see great people with a lot of money doing great things, and just, confirmando una y otra vez que el dinero no es el problema. Lo que es el problema es lo que cada quien está eligiendo hacer con ese dinero.
And lo que hace o no hace, what you invest, what you don't invest, what you spend it on, who you help, who you don't help.
Yeah, like, no significa que vas a caer en vicio si agarras dinero, right? Yes, can you? Absolutely. It'll be easier for you. So there's a big, Tony Robbins always says money is a big, what is it? Magnifier. Because if you're a good person, you're only going to be a bigger version of a good person, because now you have the funds to do it. And
if you're a bad person,
now you can do a lot more with it, right, as well. So it was, it was a wonderful process. It took a long time. And if anyone can take that from today's podcast, Peggy, que no se demoren tanto tiempo en saber. Si eres Latino, you have issues with money. Get rid of them quickly. Be around people that help you shift quickly, because you're wasting a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time, to be honest with you, unnecessary time in thinking small, in, just kind of like encapsulating myself and my potential in this area where all those years would have been spent somewhere else. So shake it off, be around people that really motivate you and you can see the good they're doing. And the biggest thing is, don't be shy, even if you haven't gotten there. That's another big thing. I think when Latinos no quieres, he has more than me or she has more than me, or et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. It's okay. We hear it all the time. It's so good to be not the smartest person in the room. Same thing in the room of people that are wealthy. It's great to be the person in the room that doesn't have the most money, because you're in that room and you're going to absorb and you're going to learn. And so, there is a lot, I think we need to do with con nuestra cultura y nuestra gente, in really breaking those chains with money. Because I tell people as well, I tell my clients a lot, el dinero no lo es todo, pero la realidad es que el dinero sí te quita mucho estrés. Y yo lo veo con mis clientes, my clients that own multiple properties. Mm-hmm. They get to a certain age and they're not struggling thinking about the pension. Am I going to get the check? Nope. Am I going to go live with the child? Me va a recoger la nuera? No me va a recoger, me van a hacer malas caras. No, because they're financially in a completely different position, and that's a completely different game, a completely different life you live when you have financial security, right? And so, yeah.
That's crazy, Nora, because today I'm finding out on this podcast that we have a lot more in common than I thought. Because this is one of the reasons why I started the podcast. I felt exactly the way you felt. The years that we wasted thinking small, not thinking outside of the box, not having that confidence, and not being afraid of money, right? Being afraid of making money, almost, what do I do with it? It is a commonality that Latinos have. And I really want to thank you for coming here and being candid, honest, and sharing that. And that you actually had to work on it, through it, and that you can share that it is a thing. As Latinos, we have to get our money mindset right. We need to think positive. We need to know that we come to this country, or we're born in this country, and we can do the same. And we can build generational wealth, even though maybe the Anglo-Saxons already have it. We're building it and we're changing the narrative.
Absolutely. No, I love it. I'm excited. I know that, you do so much as well for your community, for our community. So it's exciting. So yeah, I'm excited to see the show and everyone else you've had, because you've had some wonderful lineup.
People.
Yeah, wonderful lineup.
Thank you for being the cherry on the top, Nora, and joining us on Sin Permiso podcast. Sigas haciendo lo que haces, ese ejemplo a seguir, nunca cambies. Gracias.
Gracias, te quiero.